All right, talking about the police and changing of statements. There is a latest story that is not so latest, but is latest because of the statement that was released yesterday by police. So now, shocking revelations have emerged in Thursday's car tragic accident involving the late Kabwata Member of Parliament, Levy Mkandawire, who was bashed outside his house. Now, police have delivered twists and turns in the statement, disclosing that it was actually rather the accident was caused by 56-year-old Jetta Kalengo and not the wife, the woman who was accused of having caused this death. Now, police have told us that it was the woman who handed herself over to police, because when the accident happened, she fled the scene. So she handed herself over to police, and after interrogations revealed that it was the husband that was behind the steering wheel that bashed the former Kabwata Member of Parliament. Now, joining us in studio this morning is the Information and Publicity Secretary under the UPND, and his name is Mr. Mainda Smata for Kabwata Constituency. Good morning and welcome to the Big Sunrise Breakfast Show.
Thank you very much. Good morning and thanks for having me.
Unfortunately, our area, because we live in the same area, has been marred by a lot of violent acts, people being shot, and then we had that bashing that happened, that was that accident that occurred. But then would want to, before I get to discuss with you the other cases involving guns, I would want to start with this story, because you broke the news that your area Member of Parliament had died. And at that particular scene, a number of your members did say that the person behind the wheel was not the woman that fled. But take us back to that day. What happened? How did you get this information?
Thank you very much for having me. Indeed, it's a very, very sad tragedy, not only for the family of the late Honorable Levy Mkandawire, but also for all the members of Kabwata Constituency and the UPND family at large, including the nation, which has also been shaken by this quite unfortunate and tragic incident. I'm not going to call it an accident, because from my view, that so-called accident was premeditated. The intention was to kill the Honorable MP. And others can have their own views, but for me, and others do share the same view, our Honorable MP was a target of a premeditated murder. It started when Smart Eagles published a false alarming report that the MP had died 3 weeks ago. So that shows you to say that there is a clique of people that wanted the MP out because they want to have an upper hand in terms of seats in Parliament. We are aware about that, but we don't want to preempt the investigations of the police. We have full confidence in the investigations of the police, and we hope that at the end of the day, justice can be served.
When you allege that this was premeditated murder and not able to divulge information with regards how you arrive at this particular conclusion, doesn't that make us want to think you're merely politicking?
It's not mere politicking. The whole nation knows that there is a particular group of people in this country that wanted Mr. Honorable Levy Mkandawire dead, and they published a report on social media through Smart Eagles saying Honorable Mkandawire died. That was a false report 3 weeks before the day he died. So that shows you to say that there were plans or wishes that were there that harm should come to the late Honorable Levy Mkandawire. So the fact that now we have buried him, he's 6 feet under, simply shows that the clique that alleged his death before it actually died has gotten what they wanted. That's not rocket science. It's simply common sense. But a lot of people don't want to face up to that fact. I don't know why, but for me, I said it even yesterday, that Honorable Mkandawire was murdered. That was premeditated murder. If you even look at the circumstances under which he was killed, the way the vehicle came speeding, I mean, if you have been on Chalata Road, it's a very long stretch. So how could that vehicle be cruising for a very long stretch at a very high speed, only to lose control when it had reached Honorable Mkandawire's place, who happens to have been a neighbor to the assassin, if I may call that person the driver that. They were only next door neighbors. So what you should have expected was the speed of the BMW to be reducing as that person approached his or her place, which was just next door to where Honorable Mkandawire resided. But that didn't happen. The situation, or the excuse to say that the brakes had failed. What about the steering wheel? Did the steering wheel also fail for you just to aim at the vehicle at top speed? I'm not buying that. A lot of us in the UPND are not buying that. But we don't want to preempt investigations like we have said. We want the police to do their work and give us a concrete report on what really happened.
Yesterday, police gave us a statement, and in this statement, they say that the initial report, which suggested that the woman that was in the vehicle is the one that hit into the Honorable MP, was not actually the one that did, but the man. And this was only revealed yesterday. A number of days have passed. How would you term this withholding of information by this gentleman, if at all he did?
You see, if I criticize the confusion now that is coming from statements from the police, it will really not look well, because these are the people we trust to do the investigation on behalf of the public, to come down to the truth of the matter of what occurred. So if it's going to take 3 days to ascertain who was behind the wheel, then that should show you to say that somewhere, somehow, things are not right. Or perhaps somebody is trying to take the fall for another person somewhere. Anyway, it's a very confusing situation. But we are not going to argue with what the police are saying. We'll wait for them to give a definitive, like I've said, a definitive assessment of what really transpired. And we want a really thorough investigation. We want that vehicle to be tested. If they say that brakes failed, I mean, it's a simple case of bringing engineers and assessors on the vehicle and really see if the brakes really failed. Because if the brakes failed, somewhere something on the engine or the brake pads, it will show that the brakes failed. And if the brakes did not fail, which I feel they did not fail, then a case of premeditated murder has to be put.
Like Sed was asking, how would you firstly describe, I know I'd seen your constituency chair, even before the police statement came out, insisting the driver of that vehicle was that man. Yet preliminary investigations had indicated it was a woman. How do you look at the inconsistencies that have so far surrounded this particular case?
I think the position of the constituency chairman, he was the first on the scene. I was not on the scene. I was simply called to say such a thing had happened. So I think if the constituency chairman gave that statement, he was one of the first people to be on the ground. He was actually with the honorable on that particular day when he died. The honorable was just coming from a meeting with the constituency chairman and other officials, and he was the first to arrive on the scene. So I think his statement should be taken as a prima facie evidence, if you like, as to who was behind the wheel. But if the police are coming up with contradicting statements, then there is cause for thorough investigation. Then it means the whole investigation must be checked for inconsistencies. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to start second-guessing the police or second-guessing ourselves. Because at the end of the day, it only raises more suspicion on a death that is already highly, highly suspicious and very, very political, if you ask me. There is nothing accidental about that death. That death was a deliberate aim at murdering the Honorable Member of Parliament, the late Honorable Levy Mkandawire. And we are still pained by his death because we feel that this trend of impunity, where a certain group of people in this country can feel to say they can eliminate political opponents by murdering them, I think it has to be brought to a stop. Otherwise, we don't want to see retributions and retaliations in this country. This is a very peaceful country. We want to maintain our peace. So these people who feel to say they can use murder to get their way in parliament to have numbers, I think that is unbecoming of them.
Clearly, there was a certainty, there was a cloud of death hanging over Honorable Mkandawire. 3 weeks earlier, it had been announced that he had died until he came to the fore. Within that 3 weeks, was there an indication that such a thing would happen?
There was no indication. And that's why I did say yesterday that for me personally, I think we failed Honorable Mkandawire by not providing him with armed protection 24/7 after that rumor had come out. I think we underestimated the intent or how far the people that wanted him dead could go. We really underestimated them, and I think we've paid an ultimate price for that. I think the moment rumors went out that Honorable Mkandawire was dead, the rumors published by Smart Eagles, a PF-owned platform, I think we should have taken up security measures to provide Honorable Mkandawire with 24-hour security, because now it's too late to do that. But I think we've learned our lessons from this, and I think going forward, our leaders, I think, must receive 24/7 protection, because we are dealing with a clique of people that will stop at nothing to have their way in Zambian politics. And I think if murder and assassination is going to become a part of Zambian politics, it is very, very detrimental to national peace. We don't want to end up like Nigeria, where you have armed outfits like Boko Haram, or Ethiopia, where you have Al-Shabaab using guns to settle scores, or in Ethiopia, where people go and blow up a mall just to get at political opponents. I mean, Kenya. We don't want those things happening in Zambia. So by all means, we are appealing to the police to expedite these investigations and give us a full report, give the nation a full report as to what really happened on that day. And we feel that the culprits in that incident must be investigated. For me, I'm not really interested in the person who was behind the wheel and what they did. What I'm interested in, what most of the UPND members are interested in, who sent those people to commit the crime that they committed.
On Thursday, you posted on your Facebook page that you said that those who plotted this day to induce a by-election in Kabwata will not be given an inch of space on the ground. Are you suggesting, or are you thinking that those plotting the alleged, murder did think they are going to win this case? They were going to win, rather, the seat, should there be a by-election in Kabwata? By
all appearances, I think they did. Because we saw some very, very inhuman statements the moment that it was reconfirmed that Honorable Mkandawire had passed on. Some of them were celebrating. They said, oh, Kabwata is now ours. In fact, some went so far as even indicating their intention to stand in Kabwata from the PF. You saw those statements.
There are some that were disowned.
Of course, they were disowned. It's a political maneuver. But we know behind the scenes, these people actually rejoiced because they think Kabwata is going to be over. But I can assure you, and I can assure the nation at large, and even these plotters of Honorable Mkandawire, that they are not going to win it. They are not going to take it, because what they have done is they have simply shown the Zambian people to say that they are an evil regime who are unrepentant. They have not repented from their evil ways, which they subjected the Zambian people to, evil ways of using murder, assassination, issues of using violence as a political tool. They have not repented from that. So the indication to all appearances, to all Zambians, is that this regime is evil. All the more reason that they must be denied any opportunity to ever come close to power. Even their candidates must be denied all opportunities to ever be in parliament or in council chambers, because at the end of the day, they do not mean well. People who are willing to go to the extent of assassination and killing simply to get a seat, I think those are people you can't trust with power, because at the end of the day, they will even kill the whole population just to fill their pockets or get their way.
All right, you've hinted your expectation of the police investigation is that they do the right thing, and I think we leave it there. Mavuto, you have anything?
I also wanted to find out in terms of the general security situation your ward, for instance. I think the last 2 weeks or so, we've been greeted with unfortunate news of armed criminals shooting at innocent individuals and attacking people. And I think lately, over the weekend, we had a case of somebody being shot at. How is the general situation in terms of security in the area, and what is being done to be able to improve this status?
Indeed, the security situation in Kamala Ward 5 is very volatile, and I would extend that instability in terms of security to the entire Kabwata. Because remember, there was a kidnapping incident in Kabwata where a young man was kidnapped at UTH when he was on his way to Zanimone. He was kidnapped on a bus by a bus driver and his conductor and other people he thought were passengers. He was robbed of his camera, his 2 iPhones and a laptop, and he was dumped near York Farm in Chawama. That was one of the incidences. The other incidences were where 6 people were shot. And thankfully, we thank God that none of them were killed. They suffered injuries here and there, but none of them was killed. They were shot by 2 people who robbed the liquor store. And on their way out, they just started shooting indiscriminately at anybody they thought was alarming the situation. And they got away with that. And right after that, I did visit the Deputy Commissioner of Police for Lusaka Division, and I had a discussion with him over the matter. I can confirm to you that patrols have been intensified in the area, night patrols, both motorized and foot patrols, to keep an eye on the situation. But ultimately, the long-term goal, I feel, is to disarm PF cadres, and I'll repeat that, to disarm PF cadres, because there seems to be a proliferation of criminals who all over a sudden are armed and have got guns. For me, and according to the intel that we have, is that these thugs and cadres who used to be stooges for the PF political bigwigs now are left stranded. They've been chucked out of bus stations and markets. They've been chucked out from the ports or positions they used to hold, where they used to get money through extortion. And now there's nothing to do, but they have got guns with them. So it is these guns that they are now using to terrorize the population. And very soon, I'll put in writing a request or an appeal to the Minister of Home Affairs to kickstart a program of disarmament. We are well aware of certain cadres who we know, who you know, who you've seen on social media, posing with guns, assault rifles, some of them, not handguns, but assault rifles, like AK-47s. Those people must be disarmed. What do they do with those guns? For what purpose do they have? So the chain of disarmament must continue, and it's not the final solution, but at least we'll be aware and confident that at least we have a reduced number of guns in the wrong hands. For those that will still remain with those guns and they are not licensed and they're using them for criminal activities, the police will do their duty. The police will do their duty. And I'm of the view to say that the police must even take a harder line against criminals, because these criminals, if left unchecked, can continue to pose instability in the nation, whereby people now will be afraid to go to work. They'll be afraid of knocking off late. They'll even be afraid just to step outside their door, because a stray bullet will just catch you from nowhere. So I wish to assure the people of Kamala Ward 5 and Kabwata Constituency in general, and the nation in general, because these things are nationwide. I even received it to say, even in Kitwe, it's the same thing. But in Lusaka, it's more intensified, because we know this was the capital city of PF cadres who were armed to the teeth. And we are very, very sure to say that we will make moves or take measures to disarm those people and take other measures to intensify patrols, as well as assist the police in building capacity for them to curb crime.
Others, I think even just last week, there was a question, I think by one of members of parliament, in terms of the escalating crime rate in Lusaka. And I think largely after his observation, this was blamed on the UPND, that immediately after taking government, within 24 hours, you'll be able to set the parameters in terms of ensuring that people are given the required jobs. But we've seen the escalation in terms of crime because there are no jobs. And those that had the few opportunities, like you have indicated, in the markets, in the bus stops, have been taken away. Is UPND responsible for the escalating cases of crime because they failed to provide the required empowerment tools to the young people, and these young people have nothing to do.
You know, Comrade Mavuto, when you ask that question, I'm laughing because someone on Facebook said, Comrade, the mistake that your UPND you have made is that you have removed PF cadres from the markets,
yes,
and you haven't employed them, you haven't empowered them. That's ridiculous. We are not there to empower criminals. We are not there to empower people who used terrorism and extortion as a way of life. They are not our priority. In as much as they are Zambians, they are not our priority. Those guys should be facing
but
criminal.
President Hakainde Hichilema has kept reminding you not to look at anybody with a political lens. I remember when he was calling for ceasefire in terms of attacking the PF cadres. The president was clear. He said,
yes,
before anything else,
look,
these are Zambians.
Indeed.
And part of your mandate why you were ushered in as an administration is to be able to provide these opportunities. And you've not provided the opportunities. Therefore, young people have resorted to these methods of survival.
Don't call them young people.
But whatever you would want
let's
to call them.
Let's call them disgruntled PF cadres.
Your colleagues also use that.
Let's call them
your
disgruntled
your colleagues,
PF cadres.
I remember, I can safely
Comrade
say,
Masao, before we can even take a step to empower these people, okay, first of all, they must answer charges for the crimes that they committed in the previous regime.
Okay.
My president himself, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, did say that there will be no sacred cows in terms of investigations. Whether you are red, or you are green, or you are blue, you will not be exempted by the long hand of the law that must do his job. So, before we can even think about empowering those people, those PF cadres, we must face...
Who are Zambians?
Who are Zambians, yes.
I want you to be
those
insisting
PF cadres
that
who
a part
are
of this
Zambians.
generation.
Yes.
Yes.
Before we can think about empowering them, they first of all must answer. Because the atrocities that they have committed, there are people who today who have got no legs and limbs. There are people who were dispossessed of their businesses, whose shops were looted, whose shops actually were repossessed. And this is the biggest challenge we have even as councillors in Lusaka, because we have a situation whereby these people have continued to maintain over. One person has got 20 shops. One person has got 5, 7, 10 booths. Where is the equity? Because these people reigned by terror. So before we can think about empowering them, we must think about dispossessing them of the loot and of the assets that they gained through criminality. Then, after they have served, whether they will serve jail terms or whatever it is, then we can say, oh, now that you are back from jail, let's look now at how we can help you. Like the way criminals are reformed. You know, nowadays prisons are called the reformation centers. So when a criminal comes out of prison, there is a way we look at how can we reintegrate these people after they have come back into society, after the correction. So we must administer correction on these PF cadres who you insist
a quick
as
one.
Zambians.
One must be must be thinking
comrade,
like me. Yeah?
Comrade, after they have been reoriented and reintroduced into society, after they have paid for their crimes, then we can look at empowering them. Just as we are looking at empowering every other youth and Zambian out there who needs the assistance of government for them to make a living.
Clearly, with a few empirical evidence, crime levels is high because there are no opportunities. The question is, when are the opportunities coming? So that this crime is done away with forever. So that everybody is kept busy and people not resort to guns. So when are the opportunities coming under the new administration?
Apart from your assertion that crime levels have gone up because there are no opportunities, did crime levels start going up immediately the UPND came into government? Haven't you noticed that? Yes.
Clearly so.
Clearly so.
Where these,
and I'll tell you,
these figures we're talking about and numbers we're talking
and
about
I'll tell you,
in your area, maybe said I can squeeze you in also. You stay in that area. I think towards the last part of the PF administration, were these crime levels that we've seen in that area there?
Apart from the Chawama incidences
Yes,
with the Americans?
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So the evidence is there.
Yes, and I agree with you.
Is your electorate
And I agree with
voted
you.
for you
Yes.
to ensure that you facilitate for change?
And I agree.
You are the change that the people wanted, but
Yes.
the crime levels have gone up.
And
so where is the
I'm
change?
in agreement to say that
Yes.
the crime levels have gone up. And I've given you a hint of one of the reasons.
Yes.
The crime levels have gone up because the thugs who used to eat from bus stations and markets are no longer there. they have been chucked out. So how else are they trying to make a living? By robbing other people, by stealing, by terrorizing people. That's how they are making. So that's why this crime wave has gone up, because of these people who, by the way, stealing is not just a way of making a living, but they are also trying to destabilize the nation. They are trying to put across a message or a feeling that the UPND cannot control crime levels. What they are trying to do is to make the nation ungovernable. That is the political motive. Create crime in order to make the nation, the UPND look like they are not working, to make the nation look ungovernable. So we know that there are political motives beyond the petty crimes, even the shootings. You know, we know that there are motives.
So in the short term,
those motives.
I want some assurance as a citizen.
Yes.
I'm one citizen that enjoys their free time, especially on Saturday.
Yes.
I'm always found in different places. How do you ensure that there's safety? Because I listen to you, I feel a bit hopeless, that actually there will be nothing until my councillor and the president looks at modalities of ensuring that these people go to prison. But for now, in the short term, how will you ensure my safety? That nobody walks into our compounds with guns to shoot at us, then we're suddenly taken to TH. When somebody is driving through this compound, the process to be stopped is shortened because people can't identify themselves. How will you ensure our safety in the soonest possible time?
Thank you very much for that question. There are several measures that have been put in place to ensure the safety of citizens in the various communities. Number one, like I said, there's been intensified patrols by police. Okay, there's been intensified patrols, motorized and by foot patrols, and both by uniformed and plain clothed police officers. So sometimes you'll be with police officers in the community, you won't even know that they are there protecting you. So that is one of the measures. The second measure is the disarmament. Okay, like I said, we are putting in a request with the Minister of Home Affairs to declare a launch of disarmament of known and unknown people who own guns that they are doing nothing within their homes but are just using them as tools for crime. Then there is also the introduction, or rather the building the capacity of police posts, because you know some of these police forces, they don't even have the requisite manpower or even vehicles to be able to respond to an emergency. So their capacity has to be built. That is long term. But there is also the involvement of the community itself. You know, security is not just the preserve of or responsibility of the police. Even you, as a member of the community, you have to keep an eye out. If you have a neighbor who you think is suspicious, or you know this neighbor has got a gun that you don't know what he does with, it is your duty to tip the police. We have to take ownership of our security in our communities by ensuring to say that we collaborate with the police. We work as the eyes and the ears of the police. One police officer actually told me to say, you know, the problem of a councillor is that the Zambians, they want us to deploy a police officer to their homes. Each home, they want a police officer to be at each home.
That has always been our dream.
You see that?
Everybody wants security.
It's not just tenable.
Yeah.
It's not just tenable.
Mr.
You know, you'd have half the population becoming police officers to look after each other, after yourselves. That is not, the government doesn't have those resources. Already we're trying to scale up the number of police officers in the service so that some police posts and areas can have police stations that are well equipped and with manpower to be able to respond to these situations.
Comrade Smata, you have talked about cadres no longer being found in these trading places and bus stations. Just yesterday, we did receive a call. I personally answered that call. We received a few others through, some of our reporters at Intercity, that there are certain individuals that are collecting money from shop owners. And when they called the council to find out whether there was such, an exercise going on, the council said that there was none such exercise. So they say that they're being made to pay 500 kwacha, others are being made to pay 1,000 kwacha. They're being issued receipts. But upon further interrogation of the receipts, they discovered those receipts were actually fake. Yesterday, when I received the call, they were telling me that these guys are coming back today, and we sent a reporter to just verify what is going on there. Unfortunately, we did not get that information, but they're still going back there today. Have you gotten those reports? And if so, are these the same people that you're talking about to say they are PF cadres, or are there people that are within your party, United Party for National Development, that are just going about the business, in plain cloth?
Thank you for that question. First of all, it would be very difficult for me to issue any conclusive statement on what is happening in the city, because I'm not on the ground and I haven't any. I'm hearing this from you, but that's not to say that such things are not happening. They are happening. You remember, I think over a month, I think just about 2 or 3 weeks after the UPND New Dawn government formed power, there was that issue in the city where receipts were being issued, written UPND. You see, so such things can happen. And what has been said is that when you notice as a citizen or a marketeer or a trader that these things are happening, we have a system in place. If you feel that you do not know the identity of these people, report these issues. Every market has got a market master. If you cannot reach the market master, go to the nearest police. If you cannot reach the police, try even the civic center. That's why it's called the civic center. It's a public place. It's open to you. Take a report there. If you even have the receipt, even better. Let the authorities, the council authorities, ascertain and investigate if that is really a program that is authorized by the city council. If it is not, it is a simple issue of tracking down the people who are behind that and putting them to trial or reporting them to police to answer charges, because that is clearly an illegal activity. And the presidential directive remains: no kind of cadreism must exist in these market spaces. These are trading places and not political places. That statement remains in force. Okay. But for people to just keep on reporting to say this is happening without actually taking action to report the would-be suspects to police or relevant authorities, I think we need to be more proactive as people. It's good that they called you the media. I think it starts from there. And you, the media, also have a responsibility. I mean, we talk about investigative journalism. Do your part so that you can also help these civic leaders or local authorities get to the bottom of these people who are trying to deaden the image of the New Dawn government, which is working very hard.
His time is up, because based on what we had agreed. But I want to squeeze 2 questions. There was one question, first of all. I know you were pursuing the issue of houses that were built on Zambia.
Just a minute. I really want to get to. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. You called me yesterday from MUVI TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm with a councillor from Lusaka City Council, and would want you to just repeat what challenge you are facing where you are. What is your name, and where are you, where were you calling us from yesterday?
Okay. My name is Raida Msonda.
All right.
I stay in the morning. I'm a business lady. Yes, I operate around the city. Actually, it's called Bombay.
All right.
Outside the city. Those containers outside the city. Yeah, behind the city lodge.
All right.
Yes, it started 2 weeks ago. Actually, I would say 3 weeks ago. 2 guys, actually 3 guys, they came to my shop. They came with a small piece of paper. They were just about 5 numbers. They were like, what's your shop number? I said, me, I'm not the owner. I rent. So it was like, if you are not going to give me the shop number, meaning you are going to leave this shop. I said, for what? Then he said, I'm from the Lusaka City Council. Then I said, how can the council, the whole big council, send 3 guys like you just with a small piece of paper, meaning you don't have receipt or anything? How can you come with that very small paper? It started in town. I'm not going to mention the insult that he told me.
Yes.
Yeah. Mwabashanyi nkoko kuinoko mwiswira mu rubaka bakapokola bali emirala imwe shani tamwase ndera muleme mulefuma whether you like it or not mulefuma mu mashops aya na iko tunfeko bwini So, okay, bonse bafunine, bambo kutamba na jinshi na chaisa pepano ambo kuntuka tuwafuma kulu saka city council. Takwete uniform, takwete ID, akwete chaka pepa kano.
Okay. What did you do? What did you do? All right.
I even took a video. I went live on Facebook. He insulted like big insult.
So you have the person's face on your video?
Yes, I went live on Facebook, but I just deleted it. Should be maybe 3 days ago. I deleted the video.
Okay.
Yeah, he insulted it, skulu, antukana, no shanshan. So, abantu, abakota attention, bambo, kwiniki. Ofo nambiro kubalondo lwe, ofo bamwe berati, no, aita kokuno tukakuma, wika kweraku. He went. After 2 weeks, ero tukwaishe ikabalumendo, balumendo kena bachikulire, bali, I think 5 or 6. Then, bali no mwana kashumo, na mwana ababiri, na wakwala namashesi ya council. So, balandati, baishire 10:45 andati mrefu kulipira ma 500 kwacho. Then twalagwera 11 hours kusenda ma 500 kwacho. So kasala tayanshi ataya land. Na aya land ate na tamwalipire twalami nkabira. So for real 11 hours sharp by. So for that I think she anything to mwisa kunga tamukweta ma 500. Oko twaite na pan. Nokulanda to twalasanga naisula. Twaisa tulise kwa maloko yesu olo twala mipoke fintu kili mukati. So nakwatako namba ya civic center kana batumine phone to say
mwatumine banani
ya civic center ofana batumine phone ata kuno kuleisa aba umeti batwisa lama shop without notice lafika ya tisale na shop kwa block yola today aso mkalipire mpia then balanda tibale kwa 500 kwa chofu bashi anda muyesho kulipira even if kulipira land tulipira 500 yakudisha so don't stay. So the following day again it was tishe but wisalira ofo na imine na police the central police banjela no wherere mu intercity mwali ba police post ofo na sikire mu intercity mulya I met this lady, she's a cop kalape ni pa intercity police post. I explained to say so Angela talk time. I bought airtime. Then what happened was after Nashta talk time, I indisha katusho watu mino mwine kaishina yako ni ambio mwana kashi police officer wamu intercity police post. So yali nende explain officer change katapa kubukwa tuleya na ulipire mpia wale kuwekisha na tawe imenshilipire batawe ngina balipira. Okay, and ya tawe bale niwekeshe mpia bateti bale milile mpia. Hapana na baba msetuli na bena oko atendere bonto twarana mulyamwine mukati mwinta siti atimwali wakati nani kane santo shanshan. So number to my surprise isa shire kika twasika kulya kuinta kuna nkani pamulu kala pengi pa kansi. Okay, shire no kinga bamona teo nokutabe bati naleta kwa bakashana abana bakwata complaint nokutabe bati bebe bafume pansi. So kwa shire mungisha eka baitara kone chivi ko twashala na pansi. Katwishe kubambira okulanda abeni twashire papa kyafta twangira muri omuntu wasiranda zingana muri pirenti abalani bwetesha neri asofo lyabwa aitala nazi kwali bamayo bambi abakulu kuno kwine ku container bale na aya kuina
okay exchange numbers. All right, nalapera namba yenu aba ku council then balami tumina phone number lini. Okay. All right, so the procedure they did follow. They did go to the council. That's just what I wanted to get. And they went to police. But unfortunately, they have not been given assistance. You would have to, look into this matter as, one of the civic leaders that we have in Lusaka.
Indeed. Lusaka is partitioned into different wards, right?
Yes.
And City Market happens to be under intercity ward.
Yes.
So definitely get in touch with my counterpart in Independence Ward, Councillor Majenkoku, and I think this matter will be looked at. But I want to say this: if the listener is, if the victim is listening to me and others, I think there are procedures and ways in which council operates. From what I've heard, these are clearly impersonators, people impersonating city council officers, and this has happened. In Lusaka, in Kamwala, we've caught several number of people that impersonate council officers. That is why we have said to say, if you are not sure about the identity of somebody who's claiming to be a council officer, go to the market master. Every market has got a market master. If you are not sure, go to the Lusaka City Council to verify. But coming back to the issue of shops, nobody, not even the council itself, has the authority to just come and lock a shop without even serving you with any kind of notice as to what they want. This issue of paying 500 kwacha for land, I'm getting it for the first time. The only authority that has got rights over land in Lusaka is the Lusaka City Council. And you don't pay 500 kwacha to individuals. You pay rates, annual rates, okay, or maybe levies in the cases of markets. But you don't pay that much. You go and pay to the civic center. That's where rates are paid. And if people want you've got issues with the shop, I know there are a number of shops that do not have offer letters, and this happen to be, I think, makeshift shops or even concrete shops. These shops that don't have offer letters, when the council wants to carry out an exercise to know whether you've got the right paperwork, they will give you a verification notice. Okay, they will give you a verification notice. It is signed by the town clerk, and it will read that you are given a number of days in which to produce an offer letter. If you do not have that offer letter, you have to go to the market master or the civic center to go and acquire that documentation so that you can be rightfully recorded as an owner or an occupant of that shop who is now responsible to pay what you call the monthly levies in those areas. And if they want to get a shop or repossess a shop, again, there is a procedure. You are written to and given reasons, not just somebody from nowhere claiming to be a council or worker or officer coming to say pay 500. I think marketeers need to get more organized on this. Whenever they have such suspicious people coming in demanding for money from them, let them get in touch with the market master or even their councillors. That's why civic leaders are there. If you are finding a brick wall somewhere, like the lady has explained, to say they went to the police and they were told Sarani Pansi, after a time the person who went there took them there to say Tien Mpukendrama, also came out quiet. If you are encountering such situations, contact your councillor. Your councillor will take up the matter and fight on your behalf. That's why you elected us as civic leaders, to be able to look in all your matters of concern, to protect you and ensure to say that you are no longer harassed. The last thing that we want is people to start saying there is no difference between the PF and the UPNG government as far as market operations or life in the markets and bus stations is concerned. We are here for the people. We are here to protect the people. Quite all right, there will be some people who will try and impersonate and tarnish the name of the government by doing such illegal activities, such as impersonation or harassing marketeers, shop owners, getting money from them. I think when we get to them, they are going to face the full wrath of the law.
Comrade, I know you got an early appointment, and we would just like to appreciate you for having made time to be with us for breakfast this morning.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right. You're watching the Big Sunrise Breakfast Show.